Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk about this topic that is the telling your story with the feeling. This is the last part of the UX research basics. So we have seen a lot of things right until now. How to interview a customer, how to take notes, and how to um, frame information out of your squiggly notes or Excel doc, right? Now that's all great. You did a lot of stuff, right? And we should be super proud that we achieved this stage. We reached until we managed to achieve this milestone. Now we have data. We managed to figure out what data is about. Now it's time to tell the story, right? The storytelling is the most beautiful aspect, right? Obviously, the storytelling involves emotion. It involves discussing about the personas, right? Who the users are, discussing about the problem they're facing, discussing about the opportunity, what you figured out that you can suggest to them to improve the process, right, and to help them out in the journey to solve the problem. Okay, so the first thing first, right? The way like I've done this part before, so I'm gonna tell you from my experience. So it may not resemble a trailhead, but I just yeah, it's similar to trailhead, but the first of all, right, when you have to tell a story, right? So obviously, you have to present this back to the customer, right, and also to the internal team, right? The opportunity, what he come up with, and an opportunity for your business to get involved with the customer to help them with their problem, right? So first thing I did, right, I have to create a PowerPoint presentation. So I did a PowerPoint presentation. I took it to my internal stakeholders to say, hey, I did an interview. First of all, I started with a brief summary of what this is all about, what the reason why we did this, right, and the means we used to collect the data, and the people involved, and acknowledged all the people involved, and thanked them for the time and the expertise and the kind of tools we used to come up with this conclusion, right, or to frame sentiments out of the data. So it could be machine learning. I mean, I've used machine learning in the past, right? I've done a few machine learning stuff for my personal project, as well as for the foundation I'm working on, as well as for the foundation. That's my foundation, right? And as well as a couple of businesses I was involved in the past. So you can use machine learning, right? So let's say, right, I've used machine learning, so I've said to stakeholders, hey, this is the machine learning model we use, and this is a conclusion what I've derived from it. Okay, so the here I start, right? So the story goes this way, right? So we have this customer who wants to do XYZ operation or XYZ process, right? And they have a support team, and support team is getting a lot of calls from, let's say, um, November to January, because November you got like, a lot of festivals coming, right? Like you got Christmas there, you got Hanukkah there, excuse me. Um, yeah, and then and January is a new year, right? So a lot of things that comes to the table on the time, and obviously the customer demands kind of increase, and a lot of products uh, which you ship out might get delayed, and because of the issue with the post, right? And then you get a lot of customer support calls, and customer support is overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed, and also they have a problem that their software got changed, and the software got changed. They're getting confused with the functionality, and it's kind of slowing them down, right? So this has been a common problem across a different customer rep we interviewed. So that's one of the personas I mentioned. And I've also interviewed the managers uh, just to let them know what's the problem is about, and what the customer support is really, talking about. So the manager acknowledged we have a problem, right? And he as a manager, or she as a manager, is struggling to help them because the software is too complicated. The functionality, what they built, right? And when the developers built, they didn't really explain. They just gave an overview, said, okay, let's put it on a pilot project, right? So that's kind of impacted the productivity, and they're struggling, right? So we interviewed different people, different personas, not just the support reps, but also the managers. And also we interviewed the developers and the testers, and the developers gave a different story. They said, hey, we were under pressure to deliver, so we really didn't have time to create entire documentation, right? And it was in a very short span of time. And the testers, obviously, they're the one who wanted to explain the functionality. They said we were in a hurry to test it because a lot of pressure from the management. Right. So there was a nutshell of the people we interviewed in persona, and then the another thing what I've done, right, I just mentioned the problems what they face. Like I mentioned, although I briefly described the problem when I've talked about persona, right? They're having an issue with the software, the new software, right? The different functionalities. They want, it's quite confusing for them. They don't know when to use what and in which sequential order. So that's a problem. So we see an opportunity there, right? To first of all, to create a documentation or get them trained on this functionality, right? That's the greatest opportunity what we figured out from the data what we gathered. And the goals is to train them over a certain period of time and maybe upskill the staff for my business, so that we can go and train them, or we can suggest them a different pathway so that they can follow, or kind of an instruction, or a kind of a roadmap. We can build a roadmap for them. They can maybe a couple of months roadmap or 3 months roadmap, or different pathways we can structure for them, so that they can help the team, or we can get involved, right? And also it's important to mention, convey that the feelings and emotions associated with it. Like some of the reps were pretty aggressive. They were pretty angry that I don't understand why the business don't listen to us. They just wanted to change the software at this time of the day when they really know that it's very critical, and the sales volumes drastically goes up. So yeah, there were some of the expressions, some of the concerns, and some of the feelings were expressed, and that all being noted down, right? That's all I have to present it. So that is one part of a storytelling, right? So the storytelling should be such a way that you need to present what the problem is all about, right? That's the root cause of your storytelling. That should be the main fundamental um, building block of your storytelling, the problem trying to solve. And what exactly you're trying to do? You're trying to help your customer, right? Customer has a problem, and you're trying to tell that problem and solution using a story. That's all that to it, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, and and also you need to also factor a few things, right? When you're telling a story, what about the budget, right? Obviously, every business loves to know the cost associated with it, how they can. Obviously, you can say that, right? Though there will be initial cost to upskill, but think about it, right? In the long term, it's going to help your customer, right? Otherwise, if the support reps are not happy, they will not be able to provide customer with the proper solution. And when that happens, your customer will be very dissatisfied. And when your customers will be dissatisfied, you might end up in losing your sale, right? And you might end up in even losing reputation in the market, right? So that's not really good for your business in the long term, right? So initial um, money investment is important, right? Initial investment. So yeah, and then you also know, if you're talking to, let's say, your customer, you need to understand who owns the budget, and who owns the design, and who owns the development and testing, who will document and train people. So all these things you need to address it, right? Um, yeah, and then uh, that's in a nutshell, how to tell a story, right? I mean, Trailhead might have different ways of explaining, but this is how we did it, right? I mean, we presented a PowerPoint, we explained the personas, the problems we are trying to solve, and the pain points, and the suggestions what we can offer, right? And at the end of the day, the next steps if they wanted to proceed or not, right? And yeah, and that presentation involved budget and all kind of stuff, right? I just gave you a summary of it, right? I mean, that presentation was about 4 hours. When I wanted to, I did that for one of the company, right? So I contracted out. I did some contracting in the past. So as a part of the contracting, this is one of the tasks I did as a tech consultant, right? I was involved in some of the UX stuff, and the reason why I was involved because I volunteered for it. And when I volunteered for it, when I got involved, I started to like it. When I started to like it, I started to come up with different ideas and started to help the team. And the manager was like, okay, you can get involved, right? So I was involved in building, figure out some of the stuff using machine learning and building out the patterns, and then helping the team with writing all the documentation, PowerPoint documentation, and then I presented that along with a couple of other team members. So I got that experience. So I'm just telling you from that experience. And it was pretty rewarding experience though, right? When you can see everything in the form of story, right? People can relate very well, and they can understand what you're trying to achieve, right? Otherwise, if you tell to people, hey, we went to a custom place, right? We gathered this stuff, we recorded some information, and you're using machine learning. So for a common user, it won't make much sense, right? Okay, that's great. That's pretty much it. But then when you try to express it using a PowerPoint, right, it kind of changes the equation altogether. Then you are bringing in collaborating with different kind of people, right? And you're trying to get attention of user, customer, developers, testers, like project managers, product owners, scrum masters, right? All of them will be interested in your story because it's all going to impact one way or another way, right? So that's why it's important to, you know, tell your story in a very efficient manner. It's a beautiful skill to have, trust me. Right. So that being said, I'm pretty much done with the UX research basics. Right. We're going to talk about a different topic in the coming days. Right. And my aim is to finish this certification course maybe within 15 to 20 days. Right. Then you're good to go and take the exam. But that being said, I plan to cover a few question and answer around this certification so that it makes it a bit easier for you guys. Right. Maybe 20 questions. Right. As usual. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Adios.